Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us again here live on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube. This is going to be another piece of the real success puzzle. So, in the last stream, we look at the first element of the real kind of system. R stands for relationship. So, we look at relationship. Today, we're going to look at equipping ourselves and our team for success. And then in the next two live streams, we're going to look at attitude and leadership. So real stands for relationship, attitude, relationship, equipping, attitude, and leadership. And today I'm going to look at equipping, and just I want to make sure that we are live and everything goes as it should, and seems that way. So let's dive right in. I prepared some slides for us to kind of as a support for what I'm gonna share with you today. And if you have any questions, just drop them in the chat. I'll be more than happy to answer those. Or if you have anything that you want us to discuss further or have any questions about, just drop me a line, either mostly on LinkedIn. I'm more active there. You're definitely gonna get a reply back from me, but also I'm gonna check my YouTube and Facebook comments. All right, so let's dive right in here. So today we're going to look at the art of equipping for real success, and how should we and could we empower our team to really make any impact. So as I mentioned, this is part of the real success process and the real success framework that we use with organizations. So we use these four elements to develop leaders, right? We help them build relationships with their people, with the clients, with their vendors. Then we equip them for success and help them equip their teams for success. What do we mean by equipping? Meaning that training and giving them the tools that they need to succeed. And then we help them bring the right attitude to the table and to the team, so they get what they want to get, and as a team, the team gets the results and the organization gets their results. And then we develop their leadership skills, right? So relationship, equipping, attitude, and leadership. And today we're going to look at equipping, right? And so if you are a bit like me and you are trying to move things forward to make an even bigger impact than you're making today, to achieve more, but you're trying to do this by yourself, or you think involving other people might be slowing you down. Well, if that's what you think, you are a bit like me. I was that kind of leader. I thought that, well, I can go faster if I go alone. And there was also this saying, like, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. So I was one of those fast-paced leaders. I will kind of think that people, the time that takes for me to train other people, well, it's better that I do it myself. And I was so wrong, because here is what I learned. One is too small of a number to achieve anything significant. One is too small of a number to achieve anything significant. So whatever your dream is, whatever your goal is, whatever you're trying to achieve in your career as a leader, you would need other people. And as a leader, you want to multiply your influence. And how do you multiply your influence? Is by developing your team. We actually say that the greatest investment you can make is in your team, in yourself, in your team, in your people. And as a matter of fact, we invite our clients to join our leadership conference that we're gonna host in October in Gothenburg on October 17th. That's a day to grow for them. That's a day to invest in their people. So we're going to share more about that in the future. But remember this: one is too small of a number to achieve anything significant. So in order for us as a leader to multiply our influence, to multiply our leadership, to multiply our results, we need to develop people, and we need to equip ourselves and our people for success. So what qualifies me to talk about this topic? Well, it's because I was there. There was a time in my life where, as a young leader, I didn't think that I need people. I didn't think that I need help. I didn't think that, well, if I develop people and I equip them, and if they leave, what's going to happen? Like I was afraid. and I was unconscious. I didn't know that I need to equip people. I thought that, well, each of us have our own career paths. I was very competitive, so I had all these all these beliefs that were not serving me. Um, I was kind of the lone ranger, right? So the lone ranger thinks that they can do it themselves, but we know that nothing of significance was ever achieved by one individual acting alone. And this is actually a challenge that I give people when we talk on the topic. So I give a challenge to people to think about something, a great achievement that, through history, right? A great achievement that has been done by one person, one man or one woman, that they have done that by themselves. And some will come with suggestions, but if we look behind the scenes of those, what seems to be, self-made people, well, you're going to realize they are not self-made, right? There are people around them, and there are people behind the scenes, right, that help them. So what we're saying is that we don't want to fall into the trap of the lonely ranger. We want to have people around us, because nothing of significance has ever been achieved by an individual alone. And so that's why we want to create a team around us and equip ourselves and the team for success. So I was struggling with this, and I was trying to figure out what should I do and how should I approach it. And things didn't really change until I made some shifts. So nothing changed until I made this shift, but everything started to change when I started to do this. So four things that I made, four changes that I've made in order for me to be able to put myself in that position where I can develop myself and other people. First of all, I had to accept that I can't do it alone. And I acknowledge that I need help. This was a big one for me, right? My driven style and my entrepreneurial style had me be quite competitive. And for me, asking for help and acknowledging that I can't do it myself, or that some feats or some projects, some tasks were bigger than just me, it was a big one. But once I've done that, once I've made that shift, it was much easier for me to do the second one, to ask for help. Asking for help is not something that comes natural to me. I'm not comfortable in asking for help. I wanna think that I can do it, right? So, but when I asked for help, I actually created opportunities for my team to help me and for them to grow and develop. And then I was able to equip them in those areas that I needed help. Number three, I started valuing people and investing in them. I shared at the beginning that I used to see people as, we used to call them human resources, right? So what do you think about a resource? A resource is like, I have a pen here, right? I have a pen. I use this pen and I discard it. That's a resource that I use. I have paper here in my a printer, right? This printer has a cartridge. What do I do with that? So that's a resource that I use and I discard it. So if we think about people as human resources, we think like something that we use, and then when we don't use them anymore, they're not of use anymore, then we find another place for them. Well, if you think about people as human potential or human assets, what do you do with an asset? Well, an asset, if you think about any asset, let's say if you have a real estate property that's an asset, what do you do to that house or apartment or property? Well, you take care of it, you maintain it, you repair it, you invest in it, you refurbish it, right? You try to grow that property value, right? Well, that's the same mindset we need to apply to people. So when we started to see people as being valuable, that's when we start to invest in them. If we see them as a resource, they might be discardable. I know that sounds harsh, right? But really have to see them as valuable to invest in them and equip them. And that's one of the shifts that I made, and probably you might need to make too. And number 4 here, I become strategic in equipping them for real success. I didn't really equip them with whatever it was available. Like, we had this training offering that it was available in our organization, but we needed skills and tools and mentorship and coaching that was outside of that. So I was strategic in which areas I invested in them. So what I'm saying, little changed until I make some shifts. So the shift that I made was that I accepted I can't do it alone, and I acknowledged that I need help. I actually started asking for help. I started valuing people and investing in them, and then become much more strategic in equipping people for success. And so I'm going to share with you some of the things that I learned in that process and might help you as well in equipping your team. So what we're going to cover today is we're going to look at why do we need to equip others. We're going to look at how do we identify and develop the key skills that we need. I'm going to give you a 5-step process for training and equipping your team. We're going to look a little bit at delegation and mentorship, and then how do we equip people for the next level. Sounds good? Right on. Okay. So let's look at, again, at the framework that I'm sharing at the beginning, at the real success framework, right? So the foundation for real success is being intentional. Like, I love this quote because it kind of puts things in perspective. If you believe that success is a matter of luck, then you're probably missing the point. That's why, the quote says, ask any failure, because any failure will tell you that success is a matter of luck. But we have found that in order to achieve real success, there is actually a formula, the real success formula. And R stands for relationship, E stands for equipping, A for attitude, and L for leadership. So what I'm sharing today is part of the real success formula, and we're looking at equipping. So it was just kind of for us to remind ourselves where we're coming from, okay? So now we're looking at the area number 2 of the success formula, which is equipping. And how do we empower our team for real success? First of all, maybe a question that you have is like, why do I need to equip my team and myself? Like, why is this important for me, Florian? And so if you're asking yourself that question, then remind yourself, let me remind you and remind ourselves about the Lonely Ranger myth, right? Nothing significant has ever been done by one individual acting alone. Nothing. If you find one thing, I'll challenge you to look deeper and see that there is a team behind that. So now that we establish a little bit that, okay, well, why we need to equip people? Because we can't do it ourselves. If our goal is bigger than just what we can do by ourselves, then we need other people. And so in order for us to achieve that goal in the most effective way, then we need also to equip those people for success, as well as equipping ourselves. So sometimes we find ourselves alone and we're not really gathering other people around us and we're not building a team. Let's look at some of the reasons why that might be, okay? So why do we stand alone? Well, sometimes it's ego. Like, that was me in the beginning. I didn't realize that other people can help me to do a better job that I can do by myself. That was one of my blind spots, right? We call it ego, but that ego also comes with, I was not aware, and when I become aware, I didn't want to let go of control, because then I was insecure. When we fail to empower others, we undermine our potential and we erode the best efforts of the team members. So at the beginning, I thought that I can do it myself. Then I was insecure and a little bit afraid of involving other people and equipping them and giving them those opportunities. And then sometimes we underestimate what's needed to achieve big things. So then we are naive. And others might deal with personality, right? That was more or less my driven personality at the beginning. And why I like that is because we actually have a set of personality assessment that we have developed at the Maxwell Leadership. And these personality assessments allow us to identify communication and leadership styles and patterns. And so we can see if someone is prone to collaboration and developing people, or is more task oriented and more individual driven, or more team oriented. And that allows us to see, okay, the reason why maybe this person doesn't first think about people and they first think about tasks is because of their personality traits, right? So personality could be a factor, right? Because some people aren't outgoing, and they don't think in terms of building a team and equipping. They think in terms of, getting things done and the fastest possible and the most effective way. So we have found that there is 3 types of leader when it comes to equipping and training teams. The number one is the overlookers, right? These people equip the team, but not themselves. In other words, they will hire someone like me to work with the team. They will invest in training for the team. They might believe that they actually overlook their role in the team performance, and they think the team needs to up-level their game and their leadership and their skills. But they don't see that if that happens, they become the limitation. They become what we call the glass ceiling that the organization will hit. They become the lead. In John Maxwell's law of the lead, he says that your leadership ability will act as a lead on the organization. So for example, if you are a 7 out of 10 leader, your organization, your team, they will not be able to overcome that, to grow above that. So then if you are one of the overlookers, right, what you do is like you grow your team, but your team will hit the glass ceiling, will hit a lead, right? So then what you need to do is also to grow yourself. That's the third category there, right? Where we have equippers. They equip both themselves and their team, right? I hope this makes sense. And when you look in the middle there, you have the fearful investors. Why do I like these styles? It's because, well, I don't particularly like them, but why they are important to highlight is because they are afraid of investing in people, right? That's why we call them fearful investors. They invest in themselves. They go to conferences, they go to trainings, they maybe invest in coaching, but they're not very comfortable in investing in their people, because they think, well, what if I invest in my people and they leave? And I always laugh when someone says that, because you know what's worse than investing in your people and having them leave? Well, it's not investing in your people and having them stay. That's much worse than investing in them and maybe having them leave and go to the next step. So think about where you are in these 3 categories. Like, are you investing mostly in yourself? Are you investing in yourself and in your team? Or are you investing in your team and maybe overlooking the role that you play in the equation? Okay, that's a really good, I'll say, reflection exercise. So let's go to the next step here. How do we identify and develop key skills? This is one of the things that I take leaders through. It's an exercise that I would like to share with you today, that I take leaders through. So first of all, the first question I ask leaders, in order for you to know the key areas that you need to equip people in, like where do you need to spend your time and money and invest your training resources, your equipping resources? Well, in order for me and you to answer that question, you need to ask yourself, what does your ideal team look like? If I would be sitting with you now and you will take a pen and a piece of paper and you will draw out that organization, how would that look like? Who would you have on your team? Like, what kind of roles, what kind of teams, what kind of departments do you need, right? Just imagine for a second that that you would not have any time or money limitations. So if time and money will not be an issue and everything will be possible, how would your ideal organization look like? What departments would you have? What leaders do you have? What the size of those departments and leaders and teams would be. So this kind of removes us from the day-to-day and allows us to think strategically. And this is also what leads into the kind of the 4 element I'm going to share today to equipping and building your team for the future. So already now you want to be very strategic. Let's for one moment detach ourselves from what it is the reality of your day and think about how that ideal team and organization will look like. And once you've done that, then the next question you want to ask yourself is like who you currently have on your team, right? So what the organization looks like, right? You kind of charted that. And now you look at your current organization and see where do these people that I have today could fit in my ideal organization, and what would they need from me to become part of that dream team? Does it make sense? So first of all, we're thinking about the organization that you want to have in the future. Then you're making an inventory of who you have on your team today, and then you look at, okay, who on my current team has the potential to become my dream team player? And since they have the potential, what do they need from my side? Where do I need to equip them to become that person? Right? So we're talking about the key areas where you want to equip your team. How do you identify those? Well, you think about the ideal team, the dream team. You look at your team player and you see, who needs help in which area for them to become the person that could be, the ideal team member that you have on that dream team. And so sometimes maybe you reach the conclusion that you might need to recruit from the outside, or that maybe someone on your team might not be the best fit for that ideal team. But that's still okay, because now at least, one of the first responsibility of a leader is to define reality. So if the reality is that someone might not be a fit for that ideal organization, again, that's a good thing, because now and maybe you create a plan with that person to maybe transition towards something else or have a different role on the team. But this exercise will help you see what do you need as team members, right? And then where do you need to equip them in order for them to be that kind of team leader? Now, when we work with our clients, we use our assessments. So I mentioned that we have a set of assessments based on the DISC personality, but infused with our leadership method from Maxwell Leadership. So we use these assessments with team to identify strengths and areas of improvement. So when we take teams and individuals through these assessments, we look at a 3D view of someone's personality style, and we're going to look at how do they behave in the public, private, and also how do they see themselves. And we also create a leadership profile, the power disc, the graph you see there in the middle. That allows us to identify current strengths on the team. So when we're looking at, okay, what is your ideal organization? And then when we assess the current talents and strengths of the team, right, we use these assessments, right? And that's a more objective view at someone personality's strengths and blind spots. And it will be then the input that we need in order for us to create a personalized coaching plan, a personalized, equipping journey, right? Because each team member have a different journey, right? While you have group activities and you have training for the entire team, then each of your team members will have a different path. So in order for them to become members of your dream team, right, they will need to go on a path. And kind of with the assessments, you're putting that little kind of pin on the map where you go and say, hey, here, you are here, right? And then you are here, here is where you want to go. Then now let's chart that course, okay? So we use this assessment because it's a more objective method, but if you have other other ways to do it, that's perfectly fine. But just do it in a way, like assess where people are and what do they need to learn in order to get where you want them to go. And so then we then equip the leader with a kind of a team map where they can see the different team members. Like based on our assessments, we have 32 different combinations of the 4 main personality styles. And so then as a team leader, then you can see where your kind of team members gravitate, what kind of styles do we have, and for each of the roles that we're discussing, like what needs to happen for this person to, let's say, now become a more driven, let's say go into more the red quadrant. Yeah. And so that's what contributes to creating the equipping paths, right? And identifying the key areas where people need to be equipped. So I hope this makes sense. And so that's how we identify key areas for improvement. And also the assessment allows us to understand the right places for the right people on that ideal organizational chart that you're creating, right? Because if we put people in the wrong place, we don't get the results that we want. And so if you look at this combination here, when we put people in wrong place, we really are in a regression. But when we have the wrong person in the right place, it gets to frustration because there might not be the fit for that role. When we have the right person in the wrong place, that person is confused. The role doesn't match their skills and talents. And that's why we take those assessments which are a little bit more objective than my perception or your perception or their perception. Right person, right place, that's progression. And then when we have everyone, the right people in the right places, that's when we reach multiplication. So through the assessments, through the tools that we have, and through this exercise, we help leaders understand who do they need on the team, who do they have on the team, and how do they need to equip those people to become the team members that they want. All right, okay, let's go to the next principle that we're going to cover today. Let's look at the 5-step process for equipping your people. Here's how it starts. When we decide that people on the team are worth equipping and developing, that's the first step towards building a better team. That's one of the shifts that I needed to make, because if we don't think people are worth developing and equipping, and if we don't see people as human assets, then we don't really make that investment. So now I'm giving you a 5-step formula to equip people, but everything starts with acknowledging and deciding that yes, we're gonna develop our people, because many leaders know it. Like if you ask people, if you ask leaders, what's their biggest asset? Many, most of them will say people. But when you ask them, how much do you invest in them and how do you invest strategically in them? Well, they might not be as confident in us. They say, well, people are our greatest asset. So what I'm saying is we know this intellectually, but we might not apply it. So we need to make that decision that people deserve, right? Be developed and invested in, and that's the first step to start building the team. Now, when we have made that decision to invest in people, what do we do now? Okay, let me give you a 5-step formula here that you can use. So it starts with model, right? It looks like a cycle because this is kind of a continuous progression, right? So we have modeled one area for our team, and then they started to do it, and we mentor them and we motivate them to do more. But then we identify another area where we need to model for them. But it starts with model. It starts there at the top. And as a leader, you model the behavior that you want your team to express, right? You are the role model. You set the stage for the expectations, and you set the stage for the results of your people. So first of all, we model what we want to see in our team. We do it ourselves. That's why the fearful investor that doesn't invest in their team, like they invest in themselves, but then they stop at modeling because they invest in themselves, but they don't invest in their people. So they don't mentor their people. They don't invest in mentoring for their people, right? And the the kind of the leader that doesn't think that they should invest in their team, they're not modeling the behavior, right? So starts with modeling, then mentoring people. So you model the behavior that you want your team to express, right? You model that, you show them that, then you mentor them in doing it. Then in other words, they start doing it and you mentor them, right? Then you monitor what they're doing and you get involved less and less. You guide them in the process of learning. Once you see results from them, then you start motivating them so they multiply that knowledge, right? So it starts with showing people, right? Model, mentor, monitor, motivate, and multiply. And so if you want to try this, just choose one area that one of your team members need to improve in, something that you do and you like to delegate, you like to help them, you like to empower them, and model that for them. And then ask them, invite them, ask for help. Would you want to help me in this? Could you help me in this area? Mentor them in the process. Monitor what they're doing, giving them input and feedback and guiding them, and then motivate them to do more. And then ask them to multiply the areas in which they will help you, and also multiply this to other people, right, on the team. So I hope that helps and makes sense. Try it and let me know how it goes for you. Equipping, like nurturing, it's an ongoing process. That's why when you look at this is not something that we do once and that's it. We always model, and as we grow as leaders, then we model other things for our team. So remember, like, equipping people is like nurturing. It's an ongoing process. It's not something that you do now and then you do for a while and then you stop. To really make an impact, you have to be consistent and do it ongoingly. All right, let's look at delegation and mentoring. I think we already covered mentoring a little bit, but let's look at a formula of delegation that I know works and that you can apply it to. And actually, if you're interested in this, when it comes to delegation, we have a guide, right? I have created a delegation guide for my clients and for my leaders. And so I'll be more than happy to share that with you. If you just write delegation in the comments, right? Delegation, and we're gonna send you a copy of the guide. It's of course it's free of charge, and we're not gonna ask you for your email address to get that. You get it because you're here on the show. So write delegation if you want to see the entire formula for it. But let me share with you some principles from the formula. Why should you care about delegation? Well, these are 5 benefits of delegation. It will absolutely enhance efficiency and productivity because then you multiply your time and you spend your time on the things that only you can do. Like in one of our priority management courses, we talk about the 3 R's, right? What's required of you, what gives you return, and what gives you reward, what's rewarding for you. But there are some things that are required of you as a leader, and those are more or less the only thing that you need to do, what's required of you. Of course, you also want to do what's giving you a great return to you and the team, and maybe sometimes to have some rewarding things for you. So you get energy from something. But if you want to choose what to delegate and what not to delegate, of course, you can delegate the things that your team can do, but they are not a requirement for you. So if you are able to delegate things to your team and empower your team to do that, then absolutely it will enhance efficiency and productivity. It will foster team development and growth because you offer your team members opportunities for growth. They will take more responsibility. If you give them the authority and the responsibility, they will take it. Most people want to grow and take more responsibility. It will build trust and strengthen your relationship with them. It will definitely promote innovation and creative problem solving, because you're not going to be the one sitting on all the tasks, and your team will get involved, and then more perspective and diverse ideas will lead to innovation. And then it actually prevents burnout for you, and it might enhance your work-life balance if you think about that. So it has all sorts of benefits for you as a leader and for your team. But here is a formula that we know works that you can also apply. We call this 10-80-10 formula. And here's how it goes. Like, you as a leader, you put the first 10%, right? That's you setting the vision, kind of setting the goal, the expectation, what needs to be done, and sharing this with your team, right? So think about a person that you're gonna delegate a task to. One of the things that many leaders do as a mistake, they just kind of drop tasks on people, and then just do that. No instruction, no guidelines, no vision for what needs to be achieved, and so then the person is stressed and they don't do it, right? But what we're saying here is, you put the first 10%, like you even start the work, and you set the vision, and you set the goal, and you pass that on to your team, right? Then the person will put kind of the implementation part, the middle, the execution and the ownership, right? So you have set the stage, the vision, hand it over to someone that should do the middle 80, and then they should come back to you for the last 10%, where you're gonna review and up-level what they've done. That's a very important word, up-level, because the challenge is that we try to correct what they've done, or we try to put our own mark on it, or we try to redo it or rewrite it, or it's not exactly as I would write it. So then there's a challenge there for us to go and to kind of change and alter what the person have done, not to up level, right? So the goal for the last 10% is to up level what the person has done, right? To do some minor changes that will make a huge impact, right? Think about if a task takes 10 hours, then you put the first hour, you give that 8 hours to someone else, and then you put last 1 hour. Or if something takes, let's say, 25 minutes, right? Then you put 2.5 minutes at the beginning and 2.5 minutes at the end, right? So it's not about a big task for you as a leader, but that assures that people work on the things that you ask them, that the outcome is going to match what you expect. If you don't spend the first 10% there, then people will not necessarily know what you want them to do. So as I said, this is part of a more extensive guide that we have created for leaders. It's called the Assertive Age, right? A strategy for effective leadership communication. And so, delegation. And so if you want a copy of this guide, then write delegation in the comments, and we'll be more than happy to share a copy with you. Okay, so let's go to the next one here. Okay, what I want you to remember from the side here, from the part with delegation, is that if you want to do a few small things right, you can do them yourself, right? If your goal, if your aspiration is just to do, have a limited responsibility, to just have a small business, a small team, you don't have big aspiration, then you don't necessarily need to delegate to other people. You can do them yourself. But if you want to make a bigger impact, if you want to do greater things, then you have to learn to delegate. I truly believe that, because we can't just do everything ourselves. All right, so how do we develop people for the next level, right? This is the last section we're going to cover today. Developing people for the next level, right? And developing the leaders around us. Well, one of the kind of the main principles of everything we do at Maxwell Leadership, and kind of the core philosophy from John Maxwell is that everything rises and falls on leadership. What he means by that, it means that if we don't develop people, and if we don't develop our people for the future, if we don't equip them in the areas of your leadership, then sooner or later that will be perceived, that will be seen. And I recall a conversation I had recently with the leader. So we were in the kickoff phase of a leadership program that we're doing together for his team. And he shared something of the sort that in one of the previous organizations he led, they had tremendous, talented people, great people, experienced people. And those people created results based on their experiences, based on their previous results, based on their knowledge. But what they lack and they didn't recognize is that they didn't have a leadership strategy. They didn't have a leadership development strategy for the people. So the mindset was, we employ great people, and because they're great, they're going to do this, they're going to take us further. The moment they stop developing those people, right, things started to get tough. And those people eventually maybe looked for other opportunities. And so what he was saying to us is that one of the mistakes they made, it was that they didn't develop people. They didn't have a leadership developing program. They had these great leaders, but then there was no middle leadership management, right? You have great engineers, great leaders, and then there's a gap. And a leadership program, a leadership development program will help them develop, the next generation of leaders and have that, succession planning in place. And that was a mistake that they made. So when we think about leadership and everything falls and rises on leadership, that's what we mean. If we don't develop leaders and if we don't have the next generation of leaders in our organizations, then things might fall apart. And when we look at how does a company or a country or even a team loses their credibility, right? If you get a bad type of leader in a country, what happens is that you're going to see people fleeing the country. You're going to see people not wanting to do business with that country. Maybe you'll see democracy or other rights being attacked because of that leader. So whenever an organization is in trouble, what happens is that they look for changing the leadership. They're not going to go and change the every engineer that they have or every people in the workshop. No, they were going to go and change the leader, right? So everything rises and falls on leadership and on our ability to develop leaders in our organization. So let me give you here the 5 A's to identifying talent and developing leader. So, when you're looking for the future of your organizations, look at these things, assessment of needs, right? Who's needed for your future? Get back to the exercise we've done earlier and think about now, okay, what is my ideal organization in 2 or 3 years from now, right? I know in these times, 2-3 years, it's a very long time, and many do not want to think that long because they don't know what's going to happen. But if you're comfortable with 1 year, do 1 year. But as long as, do the longest period you're comfortable with thinking about, right? If you want to do a 3-year plan, right? Where do you want to be in 3 years? Who do you need on the team, right? Assessment of needs. Who is needed, right? Then who do you have? Your assets on hand, like who do you have in your organization that's available? This is valid if you want to now promote someone to a position, but it's also valid if you want to build the organization for the future. Like who's available right now in the organization? Who do we already have on the team? The ability of those candidates, right? Who's able? Like it's not necessarily who do we have, but also who's able among those that we have. The attitude of those candidates, like who is willing. It's not enough to be able, it's also you have to be willing. And who get things done, right? Who has already some proven track record, they do things and they have done things. So if you think about these 5 A's here, it allows you to kind of now thinking about your organization of the future, and you go through this list, and you can maybe see who could be part of that, who could be promoted, who could be developed, right? Look at who do you have available on the team, and then identify, are they able? If they're not able, maybe we need to equip them. Are they willing? Why are not they willing? Is it that they maybe have the another motivational factor that we have not, engaged? Like, look at that and see how can you build the team of the future. Again, remind yourself about this combination of people and places, right? So what we try to do is we try to get to the last level there, where we have right people in the right places that leads to multiplication. And that's why we want to assess the ability of the leaders. We want to assess their attitudes, and we want to assess also, the track record of the people. Because what we try to do is we try to put the right people in the right places, so it leads to that multiplication. Okay, so let's see. That was kind of what I want to share with you. I'll have a few more final thoughts, because when you look at equipping your leaders for success and identifying who to equip for success, there is two things that are actually playing when you select the right players. Number one is your ability to identify potential. In other words, as an organization, as a team, as a leader, how do you identify who has potential on your team? Like, how do you identify potential? If you're able to do that, then you are able to find the right candidates. And also, your ability to see the big picture. In other words, your ability to paint the picture that I share with you, or I ask you to think about, of what the organization will need in the future. If you think about the big picture, is your plan, okay, I understand your team today looks like this, and I understand your needs are like this, but in 2 years' time, what would your organization need? Like, where would you need to be if you achieve the things that you want to achieve? Well, we're going to need to have this many people in this department. We're going to need to have, more people in sales, more people in marketing, and whatever that is. So when you see the big picture and you are able to identify potential, that's when you can select the right team players. Make sense? I hope it does. I hope it does. So I'm going to leave you with this. Another quote by John Maxwell. Great leaders seek out and find potential leaders, then transform them into good leaders. I truly believe that. Everything rises and falls on leadership, and your ability as a leader to identify that potential and then to develop it, it will be crucial for moving forward. So this was today for the real success formula. Again, we looked at equipping. In the next sessions, we're going to look at attitude and leadership. And before we go away, I would like to remind ourselves that this is an ongoing process, and every new challenge, every new level of growth requires a better and different you. And so it's an ongoing process. I look forward to see you in the next sessions. And for those of you who are in Gothenburg area, or you can travel, then I would like to invite you to join our leadership conference. So we're going to have some amazing speakers through simulcast from the United States, and we have a conference room in Gothenburg at Uni3. This is going to be a wonderful event. Live2lead.se. You can check ticket options, and we look forward to see you there. And I look forward to see you next week on the 11th, on Thursday, at the same time on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube for the next part of the success formula. We're going to look at attitude and how positivity drives success. Thank you for today, and I look forward to see you next week. I hope this added value to you. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments. I'm going to check the comments and try to answer those for you. If not, I look forward to see you next week. Thank you for tuning in. Take care. Bye bye.